Welcome to Tuesday Talks. We realize that life is hard. We all have questions that we wouldn't even think about asking out loud. The comforting thing is, you're not alone. We're all asking them. That's what this podcast is for. Each week, we're going to talk about hard questions and painful points in life. We won't shy away from anything. If you've thought it, we're going to talk about it so you feel seen and understood. Join us for our conversation this week on Tuesday Talks.
What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining us for another week of Tuesday Talks. I've got Corinne and Shane with me today, and you know what, guys? It is a dreary day today. It is kind of rainy outside, and I just don't know. I don't know what to do about it. Well, what are y'all's thoughts on rainy days? I didn't know what else to intro with, and I saw the clouds. I was like, nah.
I feel like Nashville sometimes has become the Seattle of the South. I feel like we there's a lot of times where it's just cloud cover. And
Yeah.
So there are brighter days ahead, I hope.
That's deep.
You should trademark that. Seattle of the South. Corinne, do you have any thoughts on the rainy day?
Not really. It's just like my energy level. I have to work really hard to like stay awake when it's gray outside. But other than that, we're doing okay.
Good. I shouldn't have taken a drink as you were finishing. Well, I mean, you know, it's that time of year where it's just tough to do anything. And honestly, I feel this way about work. I feel like even though I'm not in school, that school schedule and cycle still hits. Like it's April, right? Yeah, it's April. And that means that really there's only 2 months at most left of school. Yeah. Whenever you guys get into college, you students, you'll see that you only have a month left, and it's the best thing ever. But still, it's like April hits, and it's like, man, I just really am done. Like, I don't want to continue working. I felt that way in school, and so that's what we're talking about today is how do we finish well? How do we continue to do school well, even though I don't want to, because I don't want to do school, or in my situation, work is just like, it's just hit that point. Like, we're in that in between of summer hasn't started, but we're finishing up our spring stuff. So, Corinne, Shane, I don't want to finish school. I'm tired of doing school. So do I have to, like, or can I coast? Like, how do I handle this feeling that I have?
I think, here's what's interesting is you've got Corinne, who, great student, loves school. My wife, unbelievable at school. If we didn't have kids, she would probably have her doctorate now. I beg God not to have me go to seminary. I didn't like school. I didn't do well in school. I was bad at math. I was a slow reader. And so I think it's interesting that I'm even on this podcast. I think I got senioritis somewhere in my sophomore year. So I get it. Like, I get the feeling of, man, I'm done. And I don't want to be here. But I think there's a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. I think there's a bigger thought that goes into mind. And it comes down to, there's certain things that we learn that aren't the lesson. Like, there's the lesson, the math lesson and the English lesson and all that. There are things that we don't necessarily learn in those, but if we are faithful to keep working, we'll learn through those. And some of that is, in life, there's things that you're going to have to do that you don't like.
Yeah.
I didn't like changing diapers. All right, that was rough, and I have a gag reflex, so it's just so I'm holding my kid down, and I'm just praying, God, please, but it was I had to do it.
Yeah.
There are things that we are going to have to do in life that we don't enjoy.
Yeah,
but they're necessary, and so I think just purely, not on the biblical side of it, but just on the life side of it, that yes, it's important to finish. Yes, it's important to finish well. Like I said, I didn't take my schooling seriously. I wish I would have. I think that's one of the big regrets. You and I have talked about this. Yeah. One of my biggest regrets was just getting by. I wanted to, for me, my school, I wanted to make the grades I needed to make so that I could play my sports. Past that, I was like, I don't have any use for school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you're like, oh, I'm not going to use this algebra again, you might not. And to the teachers, I'm sorry. Like, it's important and you need to be a student. But I think sometimes when we get into the, I want to coast, I want to be done, we neglect all the other parts of like what we're getting to enjoy. And I don't want you, because I feel like I'm speaking from someone that it's been a few years since I was in school, but I still have that moment of, gosh, I was so ready to get done with these assignments or done with the stress of school that I forgot how much I was going to miss sitting next to that person in class, learning about their story. They taught me lots of things. I mean, some of my friends came from different cultures, and so I got to learn from them and hear about their lives, and we got to go back and forth on things we didn't agree on, but I got to just enjoy their friendship. And I think sometimes when we get into hard things, we just want to get through all the terrible parts that we forget that to rush through those things is also to wish away the good things. And so I think it's give yourself space to be like, yeah, this is hard and I'm tired. Like, it's okay. But also try to fight the, like, I guess, temptation to rush ahead so much that you miss the good stuff. Because, I mean, even with, like, you saying with kids, I don't have kids, but if you wished away just the diaper changing, you would have missed out on the joy of, like, the kids stuff. And so I think we do that a lot of times without even realizing what we're doing by, here's what I'm so tired of. And I would say even for seniors, what you're probably tired of is not all of senior year. It's certain pieces. But to wish away one part is to wish away all of it. And so just trying to focus on the good and the things that you might miss one day. And the things maybe that right now you're like, I'm not going to miss this. But one day you're going to miss the simple joys of just a worksheet of math homework and like no bills to pay. Like those kind of things that are nice for now. And it's not invalidating the exhaustion and the frustration and the I just want to be done. It's good to have rest and it's good to have breaks. But also I just would encourage you. I look back and I'm like, I wished away and I forgot that there was some really good things happening at the same time.
So can I ask a question? Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure. Yeah, it's whatever you want to be sure.
So how do we encourage students to not focus on the negative side of it, but to look for those things, to look for the opportunities that they have in the people in the classes with them, to look for the opportunities to stretch ourselves and grow? How do we, because I feel like it's so easy in every area of life to lean towards the negative. You know, you go out to eat and you have this amazing meal, but the waiter was a little slow with the check. And so we walk out going, oh, man, that took forever. Instead of focusing on, man, there were so many great things about this. Yeah. So how do we do that?
I think one really practical thing is I think we have to do a better job practicing like gratitude and practicing. I like to call it counting fruit, like counting the things in our lives, even if it's starting your day to say like, okay, I'm really thankful that I get to go to school with friends. Or if you're struggling with friends right now, maybe the gratitude is like, and you follow Jesus, like, I'm so thankful I have God going with me in these hard times. Or I'm really thankful, even though my parents are really annoying me right now, I think that's because they really care about me. And I hear from my friends that they don't necessarily have parents that care about them. So I want to be grateful for that. Or I'm grateful that I get to be like a teenager and just like have fun with my friends after school and try to practice. I think we think that gratitude means that we're ignoring what's hard, and like to be grateful is to move on from those things. But I think at least a lot in my life is that there's a lot of and that can happen. Like we can be both super grateful and struggling. Yeah. And I think that would help us, but also being aware of who you're around. Because if you're around people that are constantly complaining, you're going to fall into that too. And so if we can practice gratitude and practice just honesty of here's where I'm struggling. But then if you're a follower of Jesus, I think taking it a step further to go, God has so much more for you. And if you would begin to ask him to open your eyes to see like the purpose of this, like you would understand, like if we really believe he's good and that he's loving, then I can trust that he didn't put me in this class schedule to just make me miserable. Maybe he put me in there to be kind and respectful to a teacher who has never had students be kind and respectful to them. Maybe it's to talk to that person in class, or it's to work in a way that, like you were saying, Shane, I'm going to study for this class, even though it's super hard, but I can trust that my choice not to cut corners now is training me up to be someone that doesn't cut corners in other things
That's
in
right.
life.
Yeah.
And so, not to like pull the God card, but if you are a believer, I do think it heightens that. But even if you're not sure where you land with God, I think just practicing the simple art of there are things we can be thankful for as we go. And I think that helps shift our perspective.
That is, I love that. And that is huge what you said. And even the whole, who we surround ourselves with, misery loves company.
Yeah.
And when you start griping and complaining and all of a sudden you hang out with a bunch of Eeyores who are, oh no,
Right.
it's almost like Alec looking at the gray of our day. but when we do that, it snowballs.
Yeah.
But if we are able to step back for a second and go, God has called me to more than this and to be more than this, then that's huge. I love that. Great answer.
So what about the students that aren't going to be at the same school, whether they are leaving a middle school to go to high school, or they're going to a different school in the area, or they're leaving high school to go to college? It's like, I know I'm not going to be here next year. So I don't really care. I don't really care about these relationships, the grades. Okay, I don't want my parents upset with me, so I'll get that done. But how do I finish these relationships out well, that I may not necessarily have again?
I think finishing well should be a huge characteristic of believers. I think there's two parts to this, because I think part of that's good. Part of it's good that we're able to go, I'm ready for the next stage of my life. God is moving me on to high school, to middle school, to college, to the work world. And so I think it's good to be able to go, man, these have been great for this time, but now I'm ready for the next season of life. I'm ready for but I don't think we need to cut everything off,
Right.
and be like, all right, I'm done with everybody. I'm done with the teachers. I'm done with friends. I'm ready for something new. I think there's this in between where we go, I'm ready for what God has next for me, but I also need to finish these strong. There's some conversations I need to have. There might be some people I need to tell about Jesus. There might be a teacher I need to thank. There might be, and so I think I don't necessarily think it's horrible that, that we are feeling that way, but I also think there needs to be a balance where we go, I need to finish strong.
Yeah.
What is it that I've left undone that God wants me to do?
Yeah, and I would say don't underestimate what can be done in a month. Like, I think it's easy to go, well, pretty much it's already done. Like, and then we can get into that, and that's what happens to me sometimes. Actually, a lot of times, where it's like, well, I only have a month left, or there's really only a week. Like, and then we begin to underestimate, which that's kind of a sad way to go about it. If it's like, well, if it's already over, then that's like about to be the worst month of your life. If it's like, well, it's too late. And so I think just to encourage you too is don't underestimate what God can do in your life and in these relationships in a month, but also like today really is the only day we have been given. And maybe that's cheesy and over talked about, but maybe it's talked about so much because we still have yet to like live like today's our like one shot. And so I just think about like maybe go to future self and be like, when I look back on this time, I can't avoid all regret, but I can think about like, how do I hope to look back on like the rest of 8th grade or the rest of high school, and go, yeah, like I made some mistakes. I learned from these things, but also like I didn't check out, or I still ask these friends. And I think as someone that's already been there, I can assure you, you'll never regret investing and like being present.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to make the transition, when it's natural and good to move on, a much better transition, because you don't leave going, there was a lot more I could have done.
Yeah.
I think when Robbie, I've heard Pastor Robbie speak to a couple teams over the last few years, and one of his talks, one of the things he talks about is, he said, you will either say one of two things when you're finished with something. You will either say, I wish I had, or I'm glad I did. And what is it that you will say when you finish school? What is it that when I've got an 8th grader right now, and what he's about to go to high school. One of the things I'm talking to him about is how are you finishing?
Yeah.
What is it that what impact for the kingdom of God are you going to have on that middle school? Is it that you made straight A's? Is it that you were a good athlete? Or is it something greater than that?
Yeah.
That's good. And also, like, aside, because I'm thinking about some seniors are probably ready to be done with parts of it, but there's also like sadness for some. Like, if I can quickly just address maybe people that are sad that a season's ending. I know there are people that are like, I don't care. Like, I'm so over it. But there are some people that I was a little like this. I cried on my first day of high school, but then it got better. But that like genuinely struggled with the fear of change and the fear and just the gratefulness of, I think I've determined like sometimes we're sad because we are so grateful for the season that we're in. And to move on from that is to recognize that we have something good that we're leaving behind. And so I think too, for you, instead of spending your time trying to slow down time and trying to do something that's actually impossible, that's what I did a lot. I was like trying to like fit the moment, slow it down, not rush ahead. And that's inevitable. Like May's going to come, graduation's going to happen. But instead of trying to either wish it away for some or try to like slow down the time, just be present, like try to enjoy and be sad along the way and be frustrated or tired or whatever emotions you're bringing into it. But I think especially for people that might be the opposite and go, I'm actually not quite sure that I'm ready for this to be over. Instead of spending all your time trying to make it not happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then what could it look like to go, okay, but even though it's going to happen, I still want to show up and I want to be able to look at, gosh, I am so glad that I continue to invest in these relationships, even though it's going to be sad to say goodbye one day. Or I'm so glad that I did these things. I said yes to these things, said no to these things. And I made the time that I had count instead of wishing it away or wishing for more time.
Yeah.
I think you once again. I think you hit the nail on the head. We could do a whole podcast on being present.
Yeah.
On man, looking at where God has you, and being all in for that moment.
Yeah.
Not worried about the past, not focusing on the future, but being all in that moment. I think that's big.
Yeah, and I'll just give a personal kind of anecdote to like this entire idea of I've had two situations in life where I knew a season was coming to end at one school, and then I didn't know it was going to come to an end at another school. So the first one was when I was transitioning from a school to go homeschool. I knew that time was done. I was ready to get out of there. I couldn't wait. Well, what I found as I looked back was I didn't really care what people thought about me, and that took a lot of pressure off of me. But then I also look back and like, I built relationships in that last month that I didn't intend to build. And it's one of those things where I look back and I kind of go, man, I wish I had closed that out better, or just spent my time there better. And so I share that to say, like, if you are coming to an end, like it's not over yet. It's, run through that line. But on the flip side of that, I look back at when I transferred from Union to University of Memphis. I didn't know that was going to happen. That transition happened in the last 2 weeks of July. Like, school was about to start in 3 weeks. And that July was like, oh, hey, you don't have the money to go to Union. You've got to go to a state school. And so that was an end of a season that I didn't know was coming. And I had kind of gone, oh, well, I'll take care of like some of these things when I get back from the summer. And so I share that to say, like, even if you are not leaving school or something like that, you don't know what's going to happen this summer. You may not get to have relationships that you thought would naturally come, or you're going to have to really work on them. And, it turned out great for me in the sense of like Grant and I were living together as roommates. If that hadn't happened, I don't think Grant and I would be as close as we are today. And on the flip side of that, there were relationships that I lost that I wasn't prepared to lose. And so I say that to say, if you are trying to finish well or whatever that may look like, finish well in the sense of you don't know if you're coming back. Like, it's so unpredictable. And I just wanted to encourage you all with that story of just like, it's not pointless. Even if you think you're coming back, even if you think you're coming back to school, wherever you are, finish strong well as if you're not. And think of it in that sense. So Corinne, Shane, y'all have any other thoughts? Thank you for letting me give a story.
Of course.
No, that was good. That was good. I just, so that we don't leave the Bible out of this, when God calls us, so whether we eat or drink or whatever we do it for the glory of God. I think what he's saying there, in the smallest of things, and the things that we do daily, that we need to do it for the glory of God. And so finishing strong, finishing your school year, finishing your senior year, what impact are you going to have for the kingdom of God? Are you going to leave and people are going to say, man, he was a great kid? Or are you going to leave and people are going to say, man, that guy serves an amazing God? And so whatever it is that we're doing, whether it's school, whether it's sports, whether it's work, do it for the glory and honor of God and finish strong.
Yeah.
That's so good. I think too, like if you're, just to make it practical, if you're in that place of so over it, there might just be things that are hard and you just have to learn perseverance, but also like get sleep and take a break from some of these things. And maybe your rest time needs to look more productive in the sense of go do fun things with people or go try a hobby, or as it's getting warmer, be outside. Because I bet like if we just kind of self-evaluate too, like don't spend all your break time on your phone. Like that's going to make you feel so over it as well. And like you're watching other people do fun stuff. You're like, oh, I just want to be there. So like also try to do some practical things to help you also like not burn out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you all for listening. Corinne, Shane, thank you for being on. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. As always, if you want to join our conversation, text Tuesday to 98173. Get your questions sent in. Your name will not be on it. We want to give you that opportunity to ask your questions without any fear of really connection to who you are. So there is no judgment at all. We want to help. So, and then also, if you are listening and you have any interest in going to camp when this releases, if there are any spots left, because we are well past half capacity at both high school and middle school camp. So if you have any desire to go to camp, you need to sign up now and hope that there's still time. So I don't know if the next time we record, if I'll even mention camp, because I don't know if there will be room. That's not me trying to just blow smoke. Like, I'm being serious. We don't have much room.
We care.
left.
We want you at camp.
Yeah, we want you at camp. So if you want to be there, sign up. But other than that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week. See ya.